The Enchanted Island corresponds to a genre, if you will, which is called the pasticcio, which is where essentially you create a new piece out of old material, or out of existing material. And some composers back in the 18th century did their own pasticcios. Handel, for example, creates a new work by taking pieces from 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 operas and stringing them together in a different fashion. He calls them by a different name, and sometimes he uses a different libretto. So that's what we're doing, essentially. Jeremy and I, over the last several years, have been choosing music to fit a new text which he wrote of composers like Handel or Vivaldi, but also Rameau and Leclerc, and some of these people have never even ever been performed at the Met.
In Handel's time, they'd choose a famous story from mythology, or so a famous story from the Bible or something like that, and have it lead to music. So my thought was, why not Shakespeare? So I had an odd idea, which is that we'll start our piece with the 4 lovers from Midsummer Night's Dream on their honeymoon, having got married at the end of Midsummer Night's Dream, off on a ship, and they get caught in a tempest and land on Prospero's island. And then there's Sycorax, who is Caliban's mother. Sycorax lives there. Prospero, because he's been exiled, turns up and says, "This island's mine," and turfs her out. He woos her, loves her, leaves her, banishes her, and in my version she's banished to the dark side of the island, just as Prospero was banished to the island himself. Everything is now in English, so it should be clear and I hope approachable, and most importantly rhymed. And as far as the language is concerned, I've based it mostly on Dryden and Pope, so 18th century, 17th century writers, but with a must have no these and thous, so you, yours, and so on, but within the grammar of 18th century of Baroque verse, which wonderfully fits the grammar of Baroque music.
And there's a real opportunity to do the traditional things that happen in Baroque entertainments, which is to have spectacular sets and amazing visual theatrical set pieces.
Well, I think it seemed very obvious what it wanted. From straight away, a traditional approach with beautifully painted flat scenery, layers of flat scenery with false perspective and, you know, old-fashioned scenery. So the set is like a proscenium, very clear proscenium arch like there would be. And on one side is Prospero's place with his library and his books and his laboratory, and on the other wilder side is where Sycorax lives and where these creepers come down and have broken the stone apart.
It's this kind of extraordinary island that is Caliban's island, and there will be moments where there's a kind of fantastical world created of different creatures and just that otherworldliness that the Tempest Island has.
The feeling, I suppose, for us is that Prospero has landed on the island a long time before the opera, but basically he came as a man of science, so maybe a little bit like Benjamin Franklin on this island. It's not his, it's Sycorax's and Caliban's.
We're sort of seeing it through the point of view of Sycorax's story, from this broken down thing to a sort of journey of her power coming back. Danielle Denise, who's playing Ariel, she's kind of this spirit that Prospero has imprisoned, and her costume is almost like he's kind of put this mechanical thing on her to control her.
Like a lock.
Luca Pisaroni, he's playing Caliban, this sort of beaten monster. So you get this opportunity to create these beautiful kind of moments, like in the traditional masque, where Neptune appears, Deus ex machina in the story.
So Neptune turns up and says to Prospero, "Look at you, look at what you are. You're the victim of tyranny, you've become a tyrant. Land was stolen from you, you've stolen land." And Prospero hears this, as you may well if it's sung to you by Domingo, and says, "No, you're right, absolutely right." So he begs for forgiveness for Sycorax.
It's Baroque, which means, of course, that it has an extraordinary exuberance to it, which all Baroque art does. One can expect that the people singing in this opera are going to be showing off their wares, so to speak, in this extravagant vocal way.
I hope that's the one thing that will mostly communicate itself to an audience, which is a sense of discovery in every possible sense, of people coming to an island, of an audience coming to a theatre, of a writer coming to a whole century of music, the way of coming to something that you thought you knew and discovered that you don't.